Have you ever felt like you're living a life that isn't really yours? Like you're just going through the motions, following a script that someone else wrote? Carl Jung believed that life doesn't truly begin until you find yourself, your real, authentic self. But here's the catch. Most people never do. They spend their entire lives chasing things that don't actually matter, trapped by expectations, fears, and the need for approval. But what if you could break free? What if you could finally understand who you are and what you were meant to be? Stay with me, because in the next few minutes, we're going to explore how you can stop merely existing and start truly living. From the moment we're born, society gives us a mask. We learn how to behave, what to believe, and even what to want. Parents, teachers, friends, everyone tells us who we should be. Jung called this the persona, the identity we build to fit in, and while it helps us navigate the world, it also buries our true nature. Think about it. How much of what you do is actually what you want? How much of your personality is shaped by what's expected of you? If you've ever felt like you're playing a role rather than living your truth, that's because you are. And until you remove the mask, you will never feel fully alive. But it's not just the mask that keeps us lost. There's another side to this, what Jung called the shadow. These are the parts of yourself you hide, the emotions you suppress, the desires you ignore because you've been told they're wrong, the anger, the ambition, the fear, the pain. It's all buried deep inside. Yet here's what most people don't realize. Your shadow isn't your enemy. It's actually the key to finding yourself. The parts of you that you reject are the very things that make you whole. Until you face them, you will always feel like something is missing. So, how do you find yourself? How do you break free from the mask and embrace your true nature? Most people spend their lives running from their shadow, pretending it doesn't exist. But Jung made one thing clear. You cannot become whole until you confront what you've buried. Maybe it's your anger that you suppress because you were told to always be nice. Maybe it's your ambition that you silence because people made you feel guilty for wanting more. Or maybe it's your fear that you ignore because admitting weakness feels unbearable. But here's the truth. These rejected parts of you aren't flaws. They are pieces of your true self, waiting to be integrated. The more you suppress them, the more they control you from the shadows. They show up as self-doubt, procrastination, and unexplained anxiety. So how do you face your shadow? You start by observing your reactions. When something triggers you, when you feel jealousy, anger, or insecurity, ask yourself, why do I feel this way? What part of me am I afraid to acknowledge? Instead of running from these feelings, sit with them, accept them, learn from them. Because when you finally embrace your shadow, something incredible happens. You stop being afraid of yourself. You stop hiding, and for the first time, you start living as your true self. Jung called this process individuation, the journey of becoming whole. It's about stripping away the layers of conditioning, breaking free from the false self, and stepping into who you were truly meant to be. But this journey isn't easy. It requires brutal honesty. It requires breaking old patterns, letting go of people who don't align with your growth, and facing parts of yourself you'd rather ignore. Yet, this is the only path to true fulfillment. Because when you live as your real self, everything changes. Your relationships become deeper. Your goals become clearer. Life stops feeling like a never-ending struggle and starts to feel like yours. So, are you ready to find yourself? Are you ready to remove the mask, face your shadow, and step into your real identity? Because the moment you do, that's when life truly begins. But let's be real, most people never take this journey. They stay stuck in lives that feel empty, repeating the same patterns, living for the expectations of others. And why? Because finding yourself means letting go of the false identity you've spent years building. Maybe you've built a life that looks successful on the outside, but inside you feel disconnected. Maybe you've surrounded yourself with people who only like the version of you that's easy to digest, the one who doesn't challenge the status quo. And here's the harsh truth. If you don't find yourself, life will feel like a prison. You will constantly feel restless, like something is missing, but you can't quite figure out what. That's because deep down, a part of you knows you are meant for more. You can keep running, but the discomfort won't go away, because your real self will always be calling you back. But here's the good news. Once you start living as your true self, you begin to attract what was meant for you all along. The right opportunities, the right people, the right path. Because when you stop pretending, life stops resisting you. You no longer have to force things that don't fit. Instead of chasing, you start aligning. And suddenly, things fall into place in ways you never expected. This is what Jung meant when he said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." The choice is yours. Will you keep living a life that was handed to you? Or will you break free and create the life you were meant to live? The real you is waiting. The question is, are you ready to meet them? Finding yourself isn't about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. It's about stripping away the labels, the expectations, and the false identities you've clung to for so long. But this process isn't easy. It requires courage. The courage to confront the parts of yourself that you've ignored. The courage to admit that the life you're living might not be the life you truly want. And most importantly, the courage to let go. Let go of the need for validation. Let go of the fear of being different. Let go of the belief that you must fit into a mold that was never made for you. Because once you do, something incredible happens. You start making choices that actually fulfill you. You stop seeking approval from people who never truly understood you. And you finally begin to experience a life that feels real, a life where you wake up excited, not just existing, but truly living. This is what Carl Jung called individuation, the process of becoming whole, integrating all the parts of yourself, even the ones you've rejected. It's not about perfection, but about authenticity. So the question is, are you ready to stop running from yourself and finally step into the life that was always meant for you? Most people never truly find themselves, not because they don't want to, but because they're afraid of what they might discover. Deep down, they know that self-awareness comes with responsibility. The moment you understand who you really are, you can no longer hide behind excuses. You can no longer blame others for your unhappiness. Carl Jung believed that to find yourself, you must face your shadow, the hidden parts of your personality that you deny, suppress, or ignore. The parts that hold your fears, insecurities, and past traumas. These are the pieces of yourself that society told you were unacceptable, the emotions you were told to suppress, the desires you were shamed for having. But here's the hard truth. Until you confront your shadow, you will always feel lost. You will chase after goals that don't fulfill you, follow paths that were never meant for you, and wonder why nothing ever feels enough. The problem is, most people spend their lives running from themselves. They distract themselves with work, social media, relationships, and entertainment, anything to avoid sitting alone with their thoughts. Because deep down, they fear that silence will expose the truth. They don't know who they are. So what do you do? How do you begin this journey of self-discovery without being overwhelmed by the things you've been avoiding? It starts with radical honesty. Stop pretending to be someone you're not. Stop following a life script that doesn't align with your values. Start asking yourself why. Why do you believe the things you believe? Why do you feel unfulfilled? Why do you ignore your own instincts? Because once you start questioning, you start seeing, and once you start seeing, you can never go back. But the question remains, are you ready to face the truth? Have you ever looked in the mirror and felt like a stranger was staring back at you? Like you've spent years playing a role, following a script that someone else wrote for your life. I know that feeling. I've been there. For years, I did everything I was supposed to do, followed the rules, made the right choices. I built my life the way society, family, and expectations told me to. And on the surface, everything seemed fine. But deep down, something was missing. I felt disconnected, like I was living someone else's life. Then one day, it hit me. I had no idea who I really was. The person I had become wasn't me. It was a patchwork of other people's opinions, fears, and desires. I had spent so much time trying to be what others expected that I had forgotten to ask myself, what do I actually want? Maybe you've felt this too. Maybe you've been chasing a career you don't love, staying in relationships that drain you, or pretending to be someone you're not just to fit in. But deep down, there's a voice inside you whispering, this isn't it. That voice, that's you. The real you. The one buried under years of conditioning, fear, and self-doubt. And the truth is, life doesn't truly begin until you find yourself. But that journey, it's not easy. Because finding yourself means you have to be willing to lose everything that isn't you. It means letting go of the version of yourself that you built just to please others. It means facing the discomfort of uncertainty. It means standing alone for a while, not knowing where you're going, but trusting that somewhere along the way, you'll finally meet the person you were always meant to be. And that's where the real adventure begins. I know a young man who grew up in a strict household where success was measured by academic achievements and a stable career. His parents wanted him to become a doctor, so he followed their wishes, even though he always had a passion for art. He went through medical school, got a high-paying job, and from the outside, his life seemed perfect. But deep down, he felt empty. One day, he had a breakdown. He realized he had spent years living someone else's dream, suppressing his true self. After much reflection, he started painting again, just as a hobby. The more he painted, the more alive he felt. Eventually, he took a leap of faith. He quit his job and became a full-time artist. His parents were disappointed, but for the first time, he was truly happy. Another example was this lady I had a chat with. She always surrounded herself with friends and social events, but she never felt truly connected. She constantly adjusted her personality to fit in, afraid that if people saw the real her, they wouldn't like her. One night, she found herself alone, scrolling through social media, feeling more isolated than ever. It hit her. She had no idea who she really was outside of the expectations of others. So she did something terrifying. She distanced herself from social media and stopped trying to please everyone. She took time to explore what she liked: books, music, philosophy. She started journaling her thoughts, and over time, she became comfortable in her own skin. She lost some friends along the way, but the ones who remained truly saw her, and for the first time, she felt deeply understood. These stories are real. They happen every day. And the common thread? Self-discovery begins when you stop lying to yourself. I ask again, are you willing to face the discomfort that comes with finding out who you really are? Finding yourself isn't a single moment. It's a series of choices, small, uncomfortable decisions that force you to break free from everything that isn't real. But here's the problem. Most people never take that first step. They wait, they hesitate, they cling to the familiar because stepping into the unknown is terrifying. And I get it. Maybe you're afraid of what you'll discover. Maybe you've spent so long being what others expected that you don't even know where to begin. But let me tell you something. Not knowing is exactly where you start. Think about it. The most incredible journeys don't begin with certainty. They begin with a question. Who am I? What do I actually want? And here's the hard truth. You won't find yourself by staying in the same place, doing the same things, surrounded by the same people who reinforce the old version of you. You find yourself in discomfort, in solitude, in moments of complete honesty where you stop lying to yourself about what you really want. Maybe that means walking away from a job that drains you. Maybe it means distancing yourself from people who don't see the real you. Maybe it's as simple as allowing yourself to try something new without fear of failure. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." Think about that. If you don't take control of your own journey, if you don't uncover what's buried deep inside you, life will keep pulling you in directions that aren't meant for you. And one day, you'll wake up realizing you've lived a life that was never truly yours. But you have a choice right now. So I'll ask you again, are you ready to start? Finding yourself often begins with pain, especially the pain of realizing that someone you cared about never truly valued you. But this moment, as heartbreaking as it is, holds power. It forces you to look inward, to ask, who am I, really? When someone secretly harbors resentment toward you, it's easy to spiral into self-doubt. But true self-discovery means understanding that their perception of you is not your reality. Their hidden negativity isn't a reflection of your worth. It's a sign of their own struggles, insecurities, and limitations. This betrayal, though painful, becomes a turning point. It strips away illusions and demands that you trust yourself more than the validation of others. It teaches you to listen to your instincts, to recognize who genuinely supports you, and to walk away from relationships that drain your energy. Carl Jung believed that individuation, becoming your true self, requires deep inner work. And often, that work begins in moments like these. Because when the mask of another person falls, you're left with the most important question. Now that you see the truth, who will you choose to become? Sometimes there are some experiences that are a turning point for you to truly find yourself. They're painful, they're challenging, but they strip away illusions and reveal the real you. 1. Hitting rock bottom. When everything in your life seems to collapse, whether it's losing a job, a breakup, or financial struggles, you're left with no choice but to face yourself. Rock bottom strips away distractions and forces you to reflect. It's painful, but it's also an opportunity to rebuild from the ground up, making choices that truly align with who you are instead of who you thought you were supposed to be. 2. Feeling lost in life. You wake up and realize you're living on autopilot, doing things because you should, not because you want to. Maybe your job feels meaningless or you've achieved success but still feel empty. This moment of realization is uncomfortable, but it's a gift. It pushes you to question everything and start making decisions that bring real fulfillment rather than just checking off society's expectations. 3. Breaking free from toxic relationships. Sometimes you don't realize how much someone is holding you back until you let them go. Toxic relationships, whether romantic, friendships, or even family, can distort your sense of self. When you break free, you gain clarity. You see who you are without their influence, and for the first time in a long time, you can breathe. Finding yourself starts with removing those who make you doubt yourself. 4. Facing a major life change. Life has a way of forcing change, whether you're ready or not. Moving to a new city, switching careers, or dealing with loss shakes up everything familiar. At first, it feels terrifying, but it's also an invitation to reinvent yourself. Without the old labels and comfort zones, you start defining yourself based on who you truly are, not who you were expected to be. 5. Being forced into solitude. When you're alone, whether by choice or due to circumstances, you have no distractions. There's no one to impress, no one to validate you. This is where real self-awareness develops. You start understanding your thoughts, desires, and fears. Some people fear solitude, but it's actually a powerful tool for self-discovery. The more comfortable you become with yourself, the less you rely on external validation. 6. Failing at something you thought defined you. Maybe you poured years into a career, a business, or a dream, and it didn't work out. That failure feels like losing a part of yourself, but in reality it's a test. It forces you to ask, was that really who I was? Often we tie our identity to external achievements. When those things disappear, we're left with the truth. Who am I, outside of what I do? That's where real self-discovery begins. 7. Finally standing up for yourself. For years you might have played it safe, saying yes when you wanted to say no, avoiding conflict, and making yourself small to keep others happy. But the moment you set boundaries, you realize something. You've been suppressing yourself for too long. Standing up for yourself isn't just about saying no, it's about finally choosing you. And when you do, you discover a version of yourself you've been neglecting for years. 8. Realizing time is passing quickly. One day, it hits you. Time is moving, and you can't get it back. You see friends getting older, opportunities slipping away, and dreams left untouched. This realization can either scare you or push you into action. It forces you to ask, am I living the life I truly want? If the answer is no, that's your signal to make a change before it's too late. Now, what steps do you take to discover the best version of yourself? 1. Self-reflection. Understand where you are. Take an honest look at your life, your habits, relationships, and mindset. Ask yourself, am I truly happy? What's holding me back? Journal your thoughts to recognize patterns in your behavior and emotions. 2. Identify your core values. Define what truly matters to you: freedom, growth, creativity, honesty. Align your daily choices with these values to build a life that feels authentic. 3. Break free from limiting beliefs. Challenge negative thoughts like I'm not good enough or it's too late for me. Replace them with empowering beliefs. I am capable. I create my own path. 4. Get uncomfortable and take risks. Growth happens outside your comfort zone. Try new things, meet new people, and embrace uncertainty. If you fear failure, remind yourself that mistakes are lessons, not setbacks. 5. Set clear goals and take daily action. Define where you want to be in 1, 5, and 10 years. Break these big goals into small, actionable steps and commit to daily progress. 6. Cut out negative influences. Remove toxic relationships that drain your energy. Surround yourself with people who uplift and challenge you to grow. 7. Embrace solitude and self-awareness. Spend time alone to understand your own thoughts without outside influence. Meditate, journal, or take solo trips to gain clarity on your direction. 8. Develop discipline and healthy habits. Build consistent routines that support your goals. Exercise, reading, waking up early. Discipline isn't about restriction, it's about freeing yourself from bad habits. 9. Learn and adapt constantly. Read books, seek mentors, and invest in personal growth. Stay curious and flexible. Your best self is always evolving. 10. Trust the process and be patient. Growth takes time. Some days will feel slow, but small daily improvements lead to massive change. Keep moving forward, and soon you'll become the person you were meant to be. The best version of yourself is already inside you. It's just waiting to be uncovered. Finding yourself isn't about changing into someone new. It's about uncovering the person you were always meant to be. It's about breaking free from fear, toxic influences, and limiting beliefs. It's about making small, daily choices that align with your values and dreams. You won't have all the answers right away, and that's okay. Growth is messy, but the more you step into your truth, the more life opens up for you. So take action, be intentional. Your best self is waiting. Are you ready to meet them?